Lovely. Nice to see everyone here. Thank you, everyone. As we're just waiting for everyone to be joining us today. So if you are on time, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We are looking forward to chatting with you, and really excited to be bringing in and speaking to you about personal leadership branding. As a Sirdar Director Network member, and as someone who is actively or certainly involved in wanting to be a non-executive director, it is important to understand what you are saying. And when people are Googling you and they are wanting to potentially speak with you, it's what is the message that they're seeing and what message are you giving out. So I'm really excited to be having this discussion today. It is something that we trust as a Sirdar Director Network member you can take away with you. And while we are waiting for everyone, if I can ask then for you to let us know where you are dialing in from today. It's always great to see where people are coming from, and to hear where you're coming in from, to best support you as well. So we look forward to working with you. And I'm just going to make a note here. And so we've got Donna Rachelson on, we've got Norma and Luca on as well. Norma, Donna doesn't have our slides, it doesn't have slides today, so you'll be chatting and directing on your front as well. Great, let's see who we have here. Oh, from the fairest Cape, lovely, lovely to see you here, Guy. It is a beautiful day. I'm dialing in from glorious Cape Town. Norma, you are from Johannesburg. Firdaus, you with us. And Donna, where are you today?
I'm in Joburg. Sunny Joburg today. It's awesome weather.
Lovely. All right, good to see you. Well, we already are sort of cracking on with our time, and I know that we have got a jumbo-packed event. So as I say, do let us know where you are from. We've got our participants coming in now, and we're excited to have the conversation going. And I know that there is a complimentary chemistry session that Donna will be sharing and offering those that are interested at the end. So please do stay with us. Today, just a little bit of housework. We are going to do a presentation and a chat as to personal branding, understanding that you are a brand, learning how to stand out and become influential, building your confidence and building a reputation that precedes you. You know, if we think of the Elon Musks of the world, he may or may not be someone that you believe in or think is fantastic, but he certainly stands out as a brand, and for someone that not only drives technology, but that is someone that's going to drive technology in the future as well. So very much a personal brand and who he is and what he is as well. Please, any questions, please feel free to add them onto our Q&A or into our chat. We will pick them up at the end. Don't hesitate if something does spring to mind. Donna may very well be happy to answer it in the conversation that we are going to have today. And otherwise, we will have it for the Q&A at the end. So please, you are free to make a note of your questions as you think of them so that you don't forget at the end. And I think what we'll do then is I'm going to kick off. My name is Beverly Hancock. I'm a partner with Sirdar and head of the Appoint practice. And part of that involvement certainly is the Sirdar Director Network, Africa's largest network of active and aspiring non-executive directors. So it gives us great pleasure to be sharing this with you today. We also have then Donna Rachelson. Donna, personal brand strategist, woman development advocate, entrepreneur, author of 4 books, speaker, and a branding and marketing enthusiast. Donna is an award-winning businesswoman, an entrepreneur and investor with a passion for helping women, entrepreneurs, and corporate go-getters making their mark. In the past 26 years, Donna has helped more than 3,000 individuals and 300 leaders across more than 20 blue chip companies and corporations. She's helped to design and develop their personal brand, completed more than 100 branding and marketing projects for business owners, and coached more than 50 corporate teams to become the very best. Donna has held marketing director positions for Nando's, the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, DNA Supply Chains, and senior marketing management positions at Standard Bank and AECI. As I mentioned earlier, the author of 4 books, 2 are actually bestsellers. So congratulations, Donna, for that. And she is also currently a shareholder and director at Seed Academy and the WDB Growth Fund, a shareholder and director at Strider and of Prime Stars. Donna is not only the CEO of Brightside Marketing, but also of Branding and Marketing U, and co-creator of Ignite Her. And today she comes bringing her depth of experience around the branding and marketing of you and everything else that she has gained over this time to bring it to the table. An MBA holder, she's also a guest lecturer at the Gordon Institute for Business Science and has lectured at Yale University. So today we are truly privileged, and thank you for joining us, Donna.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk, and, really about a subject that I have a deep fascination with. And, the reason being is, through my career, I realized quite early on that hard work is not enough. And sometimes we can work as hard as we possibly want. And, there's this X factor out there. And, when I talk about this concept of personal leadership brand, this is not for average performers. This is for great performers, for people that are on the call today. And it's really about what is that X factor that's going to help you get ahead, that's going to help you get recognized, that is going to help you be the go-to brand. And, really what I want to highlight is that, your success will not happen by chance. You need to understand what it is that makes you distinctly valuable. And you need to be able to package that in a way that people can see that unique value that you bring to the world of work and potentially to the boards that you're going to be sitting on. And contrary to popular belief, personal branding is not about trying to be somebody you're not. It's not about schmoozing. It's not about politicking. It's actually about taking your best strengths, talents, and attributes and packaging them in a way that people can really understand, how you make your mark. And I wanted to kick off today with a story. The story goes back quite a number of years. I was the marketing director for the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, and I decided to take a sabbatical. I went to Australia to find either a husband or a job, and I found neither. But I did land up on the doorstep of my sister who lives in the UK, and I was paging through this Business Times, and I saw this amazing position, sales and marketing director for a professional service-based firm. And at that time, and it was quite a few years ago, the position was going for the equivalent of 2 million rand, whatever it was in pounds, a car and a housing allowance. And I got terribly excited about this role. The only problem was there were 200 other people who were just as excited as me. And what I realized very quickly is that many of them had the same skills. Many of them had the same academic qualifications. Many had MBAs. And so I was in a sea of sameness. And the question to me was, what was it that was going to enable me to stand out from the crowd? What was it that was going to enable me to land this job? And I had to dig deep. And what I realized I'm really good at is facilitating strategic thinking while motivating practical action. And that's the slant that I went into each and every interview. It came down to 5 of us. I had to develop a 5-year business plan for this organization, and I got the role. Terribly excited, had to be out of the UK, while they processed my work application. And I came back to South Africa to pack up my life. And I met a man. And after one date with this man, I knew I was going to marry him. He only knew 3 years later, but that's besides the point. I phoned the UK the very next day and I said, I'm terribly sorry. I cannot take your position. I've met the man I'm going to marry. But what I learned from this experience is that it is crowded out there. We are living in a commoditized and a highly competitive environment. And the question that I want to ask to you is, how do you ensure that you stand out from the crowd? How do you ensure that you are the go-to brand? Even in the realm of being, non-exec directors, there are amazing skills and competencies out there. And the question is, what's going to make a board choose you? Why would you be chosen? And, as we run through some principles and some ideas, I'd really like you to ask that question quite critically of yourself. Am I operating in a sea of sameness? Or can I honestly say, in the context of my personal leadership brand, I've got something that helps me stand out from the crowd? So let's maybe just explore this concept of personal brand, personal leadership brand. People often say to me, Donna, don't you have to be a celebrity or a politician to build and market your personal brand? And of course, my answer is definitely not. The fact is, each and every one of you on this call is branded already. As Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, so rightly says, is your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And the late Stephen Covey put it so well when he said, you need to begin with the end in mind. Imagine it's your funeral. What is it that people will say about you? What are the traits? What are the qualities? And what are the attributes that people will associate with your personal brand? Because that epitomizes what you have stood for and what you are known for. Now, the most important thing about this concept of personal brand is that if you don't take control of your personal brand, other people will automatically do it for you. And it may not be as favorable as if you took control yourself. So often, because we don't see ourselves as a personal brand, we don't actually realize that 24/7, we are branding ourselves and building a narrative and a story about ourselves. I don't need to tell you, and Bev alluded to this in the introduction, is that your Google CV is your CV. I don't know about you, but whenever I'm introduced to a new contact or there's a prospective business partner or whatever, I Google them to death to find out what I can about them. And that gives me a very, very good sense of who they are, what they stand for, and very importantly, who they associate with. So your online presence is really important. Where do you rank in the context of Google? Are you distinguishable, or are there other people with the same name as you? Some of them may not have as good a reputation as you, but you're in a blur with these kind of people with these tarnished reputations. And so when people, go onto your LinkedIn, do they have a good sense of your know-how, of your expertise, of your talents, and what it is that you stand for? Very importantly, what is the content that you are posting online? Are you considered a thought leader in your space? And very importantly, who are you connecting with? And what kind of conversations are you happening online? Because really, it's this kind of stuff that's going to differentiate you and help you stand out online. As a matter of interest, I am very fastidious of who I connect with on LinkedIn. And the reason being is when I connect with somebody on LinkedIn, I know when they go and view my network, that is telling a story. So I don't just connect with everybody, recruiters or, people with no kind of pictures or key descriptors of who they are, because it's not going to amplify my brand and what I stand for. So I suppose a key question that I would pose at this part of the conversation is, are you branded for something of value, or are you a victim of others' branding of you? Because often we are a victim because we don't take control of our personal brand, and other people are branding us in a way that they see fit. So I build a personal brand. What potentially could be the benefit of this? Well, the first is, as I alluded to, is that it's crowded out there. You need to find ways to stand out from your colleagues, your peers, your competitors in a way that people go, wow, that's fabulous. The next reason why we do it is to enhance your profile and your visibility. And what I often say to people is, if you have low visibility, you have no visibility. And it doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert, you're going to have to find ways to become more visible. And as I said before, enhancing your profile and visibility online is just such a spectacular way to do it. But understand that everything you do online builds a narrative and a story about you. So the question is that visibility working for you in the context of what you want to be known for? The other reason why we do this is to better communicate the value that you deliver. Because when you start thinking about your personal brand, packaging it and marketing it, in order to do that effectively, you need to have a very good sense of your target market. Who is it that you want to be appealing to? And in that context, what are their dreams? What is their vision? What are their challenges? What are the problems that they need solved? So you may think, these are the kinds of boards that I want to sit on. And based on that, you've got to understand those kind of businesses, whether they kind of tech businesses, whether they're engineering businesses, whether they're social impact businesses, it doesn't matter what they are. You have to have a very good sense, if you're putting your brand out there, what are the key problems that they're experiencing? What are those challenges, so that you can create meaning for your personal brand? That when they start engaging with you, they go, wow, this is someone that I want on my team. The other reason why we build and market a personal brand is to actually build a reputation that precedes you. Imagine if you never had to market yourself again, because you had built such a strong reputation in a particular niche or a particular domain that people actually approached you, and that you weren't going out there looking for board positions, but people were approaching you because there was absolute clarity of your track record. You'd positioned as an expert in this field, and you were the absolute go-to brand. And believe it or not, one of the key reasons why you need to build and market a personal brand is it actually builds confidence. And the reason why it builds confidence is because when you dig into your personal brand, you're going to have a good idea of what you're good at and what you're not good at. Now, believe it or not, no great personal brand is built on weakness. If you spend all of your time trying to rectify your weaknesses, you will never build a personal brand. In fact, personal brand is taking your best strengths, amplifying them, and taking them to the next level. It doesn't mean you totally don't look at your weaknesses. In terms of your brand feedback, there may be one or two key weaknesses or blind spots that are actually the coffee stain around your cup. And it's important that you address those in order to enhance how you are seen. So I always say to people, and this may be a little bit edgy and controversial, that confidence is more important than competence. And the reason being is that people buy confidence. And especially in the realm of serving as a non-exec director on a board, they're going to want to feel that they have made the right decision in terms of what you bring to the party, and that you exude this confidence of what it is and the unique value that you can deliver. So that's kind of the context, why this stuff is important, what it is. And let's maybe for a moment get
Can I
a
stop
little
you
bit.
there? We've actually we've got a raised hand here. We've got a question on a point you
Wonderful.
made there.
Great.
Milelo. Two participants have raised hands at this point. If I can ask you, have you got a question? Or would you like to write it in the book? I don't think we'll be able to, write it in the chat. If you can, sorry about that. But we have got some questions being raised there.
Wonderful, love questions.
Let me see here. I can, Sipamanda, talking permitted. There we go. You will need to unmute. And if we've got a problem with that, what we will do is please write your, okay, great. Let's see here. Yes, absolutely. We will be sharing the recording. Okay, lovely. Please do continue. Sorry, Donna.
Okay, wonderful. So let's just get a little bit practical, and let's think about how you go about thinking about your personal brand. What we do know is that personal branding is based on perceptions of what other people are seeing in you, how other people are experiencing you. And really what people think is incredibly important, because what I say when you try to build a personal brand is that there needs to be total alignment between what you say you are, what other people say you are, and how people experience you. It's kind of like a triangle. And there needs to be absolute alignment with that. Because if you get personal brand feedback and there is a huge gap between how you want to be seen and how other people see you, there is no doubt that you're going to have to close that gap before you continue to build and market your personal brand. Okay, now, very important, how do you do that? And here's the simplest of exercises, but it works like a dream. Even if you went to a few kind of influencers, people in your network whose opinion you respect, and you ask them a simple question: what are the 4 words that come to your mind when you think of my personal brand? Now, what's interesting when you ask this question is often we get feedback like we are honest, we are hardworking, we're reliable, we're trustworthy. And people get quite excited with that kind of feedback. In my world, that's not exciting feedback. And the reason being is that refers to what I call rational attributes. And in fact, if I was to go out to the Sirdar Network, and I'm sure you wouldn't be in this network if you didn't have those values of honesty, trustworthy, reliability, and, hard work. But if your personal brand was described as strategic, as controversial, as an out-of-the-box thinker, innovative, that is stuff that's going to excite people. And the reason being is, personal brands create an emotional connection. So if you're doing stuff that excites people, that's what's going to make them want to engage with you. So very important with that feedback is to kind of think, what are those descriptors that are going to define what I want to be known for? So for example, for my personal brand, there are only two things that I want to be known for: strategically results driven and inspiringly practical. And that everything I do is infused in that and steeped in that. So whenever I get personal brand feedback, that is the feedback that I get, because I'm in control of my brand and I'm shaping those perceptions in the context of how I want to be seen. So that's a wonderful kind of little exercise to get you going in the context of thinking about your personal brand. Other considerations that you need to think about is it's very important that you position your personal brand in the context of your purpose. Now, often when I work with leaders who don't have a strong sense of purpose find it very difficult to build a personal brand. Because when you do have a purpose and you can position your personal brand in the context of your purpose, it gives a deep gravitas and meaning. So my strong advice to you is be in touch with your purpose and what it is you want to be achieving. What is your big why? Why do you do what you do? And what is that impact? What is the significance of what you're doing that's going to turn the dial? The next thing that you also need to consider are your best strengths. And, when you're thinking about your best strengths, it's not just a matter of, I'm good at building relationships, okay? Because I guarantee you, the majority of South Africa will say, or across the world, wherever you're coming from, will say that they're good at building relationships. How do you build relationships that is different and in a way that adds unique value to an organization? So really thinking through your strengths and in a way that your strengths are seen as part of your differentiator. You also need to think through, what is your competitive advantage? What is it that you do better than anyone else in your space? And even if you're looking at a non-exec position in a particular segment, why would they choose you? What is it that you do better than anybody else? So I know my competitive advantage is I can facilitate strategic thinking while motivating practical action. And that is something that I take into everything that I do. And I promise you, whenever I join a board, I use the same strategy because I'm very strategic and I've got this, strategic marketing brain. So I'm going to analyze a business. Where are they in the market? How do they compare relative to their competitors? And I've got a team that can do a whole online audit of the business to, see how they're showing up. So I can come with rich, valuable insights on that business. But at the same time, I'm very practically driven. So I'm always looking, where in my network can I leverage opportunities to bring more business in or secure strategic partners for this particular business? And that's my edge. That's my recipe. And it works. You have to identify what is your competitive advantage and is it of unique value that you would be chosen over and above anyone else. So my final thought to you, and then very happy to take some questions and to continue this conversation. You have a choice. You can be ordinary or you could be extraordinary. And often what we always strive to do as leaders is to be better. In my world, it's good to be better, but it's better to be different. And the question is, what are you doing to stand out of the crowd, take control of your personal brand, and be that go-to brand? So Bev, those were some initial thoughts that I wanted to put on the table to stimulate some discussion, and would love to hear some views, some perspectives, some comments, some questions based on my input.
Love that. And I think, thank you so much, Donna, for that. And before we head into those questions, because I'm sure there's lots of, how do I do and what do I do that comes through that. And I have to say, I love that about identifying your why. As a Simon Sinek fan, I think that is such a great area to focus on, and then look at your competitive advantage. I'd like to bring Norma and Clover into the discussion, because Norma is the head of or is the appoint services manager for Sirdar. She has been with Sirdar for a year and comes from over 15 years experience in general recruitment, moving into opening up executive search for an organization, and then actually moving forward and driving executive and non-executive search before joining Sirdar. And she has collaborated with agencies through Saudi Arabia, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Botswana, so really understands Africa as well, which is the space that we operate in, and lovely to have everyone joining us from all over. So Norma, I'm going to ask you to consider as one of the layers, and as Donna has been speaking about, what do you need to look at? Who are you? What is your personal branding? Part of this is looking at the natural energies that you bring to the table and understanding that, so that you can actually put it in to an overall package. And there is a tool to be able to get clarity around that as well, and almost confirm about where your natural energies and strengths and abilities lie, and how you bring that to any table, whether it's boardroom or other. So Norma, if I can hand over to you to talk a little bit about Contribution Compass and how that can support you. And once you've done that, then absolutely, Donna, I look forward to us being able to so please put those questions in the box. I look forward to us being able to help you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bev, and thank you so much, Donna, for the presentation. So rightfully speaking, after Donna has explained what your personal brand is, when we speak of the Contribution Compass at Sirdar, we believe in having a board that's holistically balanced, in as much as when we appoint NEDs, we look at your qualifications, your experience, your background, your skill set, your personality, but we also look at your energy. Are you the right energy fit for this particular board? And you ask me, how do we know if one is the right energy fit? That's where we use a profiling tool called the Contribution Compass. It's a team profiling methodology that aims to get every member of the team into their zone of flow. We use it at Sirdar for boards, and we also use it even when we appoint internal members for Sirdar. You get to understand what one's natural flow of energy is. What are they good at? What do they naturally love to do before you just put them in a position? So it's very important, and I always say it's very important that boards actually get to do it, but not so more for boards, but even for individuals. You in line with building your own personal brand, you get to understand, who are you as an individual? What do you love to do? What do you gravitate towards? You could be put in a position to be a business development person or a numbers person, but in essence, that's not who you are. Your energy lies more within the implementation or the operational processes. So it determines who you are. It actually gives you a very detailed background and detailed breakdown of what it is that you are actually passionate about doing. Contribution Compass, we believe that people should do what they're good at doing and what they naturally love to do. The profiling tool will enable one to understand both your area of maximum contribution to a team or to a company and to an organization, and both just understanding yourself, but also you get to invest time in the area of your maximum contribution through your natural energy. So understanding your natural energy is literally the first step in finding your personal flow as an NED or as an individual, because it shapes the way you naturally think, it shapes the way you communicate and you actually operate. So in brief, we look at the 4 energies, and most people, when they've taken the assessment, they've always come back to me to say, oh, Norma, your assessment says I'm this, but I'm not this. And we always say, when you look at the compass and how it breaks you down, the 4 energies, you are a bit of everything, but there is one energy that will spike more than the others. So you notice we'll have the red energy, which is the activating energy. This is the type of energy that creates a very vivid vision combined with ideas and innovation. These are the big thinkers. These are the big picture people. Normally they have the spike in the red energy. Then you have the yellow energy, which is the inspiring energy. This is the energy that inspires other people. It inspires the team. It's the coaching energy, and it's the one that supports the vision to drive forward. And then we've got the green energy, the sustaining energy. This is the energy that brings the ideas of others to life. You're sitting around a board, the red energy has already given us the big ideas, the big picture, what we're looking to do, but you've got this green energy that says, this is how we implement it, brings these ideas to life. It nurtures the growth of the organization, the growth of the team, and the growth of the business. And then we finally have the blue energy. This is the refining energy. This is very analytical, very normally data-driven positions. Data-driven candidates will have this energy. You're looking at, normally your CAs, people within the finance space, people who look at data a lot, normally sit with this energy. So when you look at the 4 energies, you realize you can't do without the other. You need a balanced board. You need a balanced team. You need the activating energy. You need the energy that has the big ideas, but you also need the energy that will actually coach, that will inspire. But you also need the energy that will actually say, yes, let's do this. Let's implement. Let's go for this. Then you also need the energy that says, wait a minute, what's the data here? Let's look at this data in a very detailed manner. So in essence, those are the 4 energies that the contribution campus looks at. I love that, we've got candidates who've done it before, Bev and Donna, and when they've done it, it's not for a board role. It's just for them in terms of their own branding. And when they've come back to us, they've always said to me, Norma, I took this contribution campus to get to understand myself before even going for an interview. I could understand and speak about what sets me apart, as Donna, you mentioned, what sets me apart from the rest of the candidates, what makes me stand out. And just by doing the contribution campus and reading my feedback, I got to understand, who am I as a leader? Who am I as in a team? Who am I in an organization? And who am I as part of the board? What do I bring to this board? What am I good at? Where do I need to improve? But where does my natural flow of energy actually come from? And this is what I probably need to focus more on. So I actually love it, and I recommend it, whether it's for a board position or it's for a team position, or it's even for just you as an individual and getting to understand yourself and branding yourself. This actually comes in very handy. Thank you so much, Bev. I don't know if anyone has any questions, happy to elaborate some more.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that, Norma. And I see some questions coming up, and we're going to dive into those now as well. And absolutely, I think so many of us sitting around this table today will know, for example, of chartered accountants. And I know of 2 chartered accountants who would never be in a traditional chartered accountant role. And when they're sitting at board level, their whole focus, drive, area of their competitive advantage is that they are incredibly strategic and can look big picture and are that red profile, but they come with a chartered accountancy background. And it's being able to take that forward and say, how do I, where do I sit? What do I bring to the table? And it all speaks to building your competitive advantage and that personal branding. So Donna, thank you for that. And Norma, thank you so much for that as well. Let's have a couple of questions. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Monica. Awesome presentation. And Vinod, in terms of how do we get Contribution Compass, Norma absolutely will follow through with you as to this. She'll send you the details. Vinod, thank you. Any other questions around your personal branding, where to start, what to look at? I know something that I've picked up here without a doubt is I need to go back onto LinkedIn. Now, I've probably got over 8,000 plus in my network, but I've got a closed network. So if someone goes in and they can only see who they're aligned to, they can't see who everyone else is. So that is a learning. Thank you very much, Donna. That for me, I'm going to go, it's of value. So that's definitely a takeaway for me. Any other examples that, and I think certainly that low visibility is no visibility. And in the past, I've also spoken with fantastic professionals, highly skilled specialists, entrepreneurs who occasionally, once or twice, will go, but I'm not on LinkedIn. I don't like that. What is your answer to that, Donna?
Yeah, so for me, it's become a non-negotiable. And the reason being is when people Google you, the first thing that actually comes up is your LinkedIn profile. So, people are going to go onto that as a first kind of window to your personal brand. And you have 2,000 characters in that profile to make the best impression possible. It's like your walking advert. And, people often don't put enough emphasis on that. And, a profile for LinkedIn, it's not a summarized CV. Nobody really cares. What it is, who are you? What do you stand for? What makes you unique and different? What makes you distinctive in your space? What have been your standout projects? What is the value that you've delivered? Where is that domain that you add the most value? And also, who are you as a person? Are you someone that I can relate to? So it's critically important for me, LinkedIn. In fact, often when I work with leaders, sometimes the only platform that we do focus on is LinkedIn, because from a professional perspective, it's just, there's nothing that beats it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is vital, and it's certainly encouraging to hear that from you as well. Are there any other areas that you think that one should then be considering when you are building your personal brand? So you've got LinkedIn. Do you need to take a look at your Facebook? Do you need to take a look when you Google yourself and say, okay, what are the areas? And almost do this whole search engine optimization in terms of the words and the terms you're using?
For me, it's very important to understand, who you're targeting. And, what is the strategy? So, and I just want to give this example, and I'll bring it back to personal branding. So, I run a business called Brightside Marketing, where we offer outsourced marketing services to B2B growth stage businesses. Now, what we always do with those businesses is say, okay, so what's your target? How many, they may be big engineering firms or whatever. How many new customers do you want this year? And if it's 5, then we say, okay, well, maybe a whole big online campaign is actually not what you need. Maybe we need one strong strategic partner, for example, that can bring you those particular leads that you're looking at. So much like with personal branding, the question is, what do you want to achieve? You can't just go out there and say, I'm out there, I just want to put my brand out. Who do you want to speak to? Whose radar screen do you want to be on? Because based on that, you're going to have to position your personal brand and develop a strategy that talks to that target market in a way that builds your authority and credibility. And so when I talk about personal branding, it's not about being arrogant. It's about building credibility and authority that you've seen as a specialist. And for me, having an area of specialization is extremely powerful. Even if it's an aspect of what you do that is specialist, because that's what garners attention and gets you on people's radar screen. So for example, our position as an entrepreneur, an investor, branding, and marketing specialist, but my 2 areas of specialization are personal and team branding and fast-tracking the development of women. And it's on those particular areas I've written books, I get interviewed by the media, I get called on for those opportunities because those are areas of specialization. So for me, it's quite strategic. Who are you targeting? What are their needs? What are their challenges? What are their problems? And then how do you position your brand accordingly and build a visibility strategy that's going to get you on their radar screen?
Thank you. And how does that align to to when you are seeking non-executive or are in non-executive director roles, but you also have a very focused career, either as an entrepreneur or as a CEO or, within the corporate space. How do you align those two?
Excellent question. So when you're packaging your personal brand, you need to connect the dots for people. They're not going to connect the dots themselves. I promise you, my career has been from explosives and chemicals to chartered accountants, to banking, to chicken, to logistics, to venture capital, and then focus now on women development, entrepreneur development, and corporate leaders. So you got to weave it into your story. So if you've focused on entrepreneurship, but you've got areas of expertise, how do you take what you've learned from your entrepreneurial business? What else can you bring to, personal branding is a bit like a kaleidoscope. There are lots of different elements that you bring together, but the key point I want to make is you've got to build the narrative. You've got to build the dots so people understand why you would be the best non-exec director in that particular sector.
That's interesting that you say that, because very much from a Sirdar perspective, we also say that it's not always essential. In fact, it's not often important at all that you come from the industry sector that the board is in, because the specialists are so often sitting around the table already. Exactly. And that's where you've got to be very clear in what it is that you are bringing to the table.
Absolutely. 100%, and also just linking to your contribution compass. If you know that you're that big ideas person and, you've got a lot of people on your board who are engineers or accountants, you're going to add huge value. You don't necessarily need to be in that industry, but you have the ability to think creatively, out of the box, make connections that perhaps somebody on that board wouldn't be able to make.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening today, please, if you've got something that's bothering you and you're wondering how you're going to do that connect, how you're going to align to areas of everything that you offer or that you feel that you have to offer, ask us. Donna's here today to support you in this particular journey before we close off. So, we're more than happy to address anything that is bothering you, because often it is that challenge. How do you distill your presence and your branding to have that, this is what I do. You've got your 2 clear points, and there's a whole lifetime of experience, in the background. So it does take time and energy. And I think what you mentioned earlier is about making sure you are collecting and connecting all the dots together to give an overview, and being a thought leader in today's world. I think you mentioned that, very important to be out there.
Yeah. And it's also, people love specialists. People love thought leaders. People love people who are pushing the boundaries. And often what I say is, when you're building a personal brand, it's not about blending in. It's about standing out. And sometimes you've got to be a little bit controversial. You've got to be a little bit edgy. I mean, one of my best-selling books, Play to Win: What Women Can Learn from Men in Business. I think at the time I launched it, I got about 4 million rands worth of PR. And the reason being, it was edgy. It was a little bit controversial. What do you mean? What can women learn from men in business? But it's actually what I meant was what we bring as women to the world of work is mind-blowing. We are collaborative. We are purpose-driven. We are amazing at relationship building. We are calculated risk takers. But the fact of the matter is the world of work was invented by men, and they have perfected it. So if we can understand how they play the game of business and what it is we can learn from that, and combine that with what we bring as women, it makes us compelling beyond comprehension. And I mean, it's stuff like business is a game. Don't take it personally. Ditch the small incremental moves. Don't wait to get noticed. Work your network like a man. it's all that kind of stuff. So, very important that you're thinking, how am I going to go out there that secures that which I want to be known for? Because your thought leadership must support how you want to position your personal brand.
Absolutely. And it speaks to that confidence and confidence. And especially when we are speaking about women, and we've got International Women's Month coming up, and it's always about leadership. It's, do women have the confidence to put yourself forward, etc. And I think what's quite interesting as well, and Norma, maybe you can sort of dive into this a little bit, is if you're going for a board interview, or it can be even an executive interview, it's important to ask the question, what is the culture of that board or team? Because if it is a team that everyone is always driving and got all the big ideas but there's no one to actually stand back and who's asking the hard questions or saying, where's the money coming from to do what we're doing, for example, is if that is an ability and a strength and a natural energy that you bring into a room, already you are standing out. And Norma, I'm sure you've seen this when you are looking to align skills and experience, obviously, together with natural energy around a table.
Yes, Bev, I've always used this example where I've said, if you look at someone like Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, would assume that they carry the red energy. And you'd find that everyone says, this is an awesome energy, but the reality is we don't want to have 5 or 10 Mark Zuckerbergs on one board. We actually want to make sure that you are going to come in with your refining energy or your inspiring energy or your coaching energy, and you're going to actually stand out and be the one that makes a difference. You're going to see things differently from the red energy. You're going to ask the tough questions. You're going to have different views and thoughts and opinion towards whatever has actually been delivered. So it is quite important that, in as much as I had someone saying to me, "Norma, I'm disappointed. It says I'm an inspiring person, and I thought I was the big ideas person." And as you sit down and talk some more with this person, you realize you are actually very inspiring. You are the champion of growth in this board. You're the champion of always encouraging the team and stuff. So you are inspiring, but you still have the red energy. And when you come in and you meet with the rest of the board, there is an even flow of energy around the boardroom.
Absolutely. And in fact, many CEOs are coach profiles, the people person, because of the very nature of what they do. So thank you so much for that. And before we close, any other words of wisdom, Donna, that I can share or you can share?
No, I mean, I think my kind of closing comment, is, you're a brand. Take control of that brand. Don't let other people brand you. It'll never be as strong and favorable if you take control yourself. Just one thing, Bev, I'm interested, just any feedback from participants, what stood out for them from our discussion, what kind of landed, what were any kind of insights or any kind of comments would just give us a kind of good feel of how the messages landed.
There's actually an interesting question from Tuli. And maybe we can address that as a way of looking at this. Before we close, Tuli is an entrepreneur. She's been running her business in consulting for almost 12 years. She's focused on SME, business development and entrepreneurship. Her background is in management consulting, banking, and that whole corporate space that she left 12 years ago. How do you position yourself for corporate boards with having both worlds?
So an interesting thing, and just because I understand that space so well, the question is, with the businesses that you've worked with, Tuli, have you kind of formed any little advisory boards in these businesses and maybe sat on those advisory boards? Because in my mind, that could be a good story for you to weave into potentially getting onto corporate boards, is that you've had extensive experience in the entrepreneur space, you've built advisory boards for these businesses, you've sat on boards across XYZ sectors or whatever. That starts to build a great narrative of how you could be of value to a corporate board. Just a thought there.
And never be afraid of starting with NGO, with something that you're passionate about, with a smaller board, and develop yourself into a corporate board. You know, there's a lot of competition out there. So start with the end in mind and develop this. This is a project and a process and a flow, with ultimately moving to that. So, you know, yeah, absolutely, is about your personal branding. And we go back to that. And we've got one last question before we close, is from Nichelle. Thank you. Is what practical material and examples can be used to apply the concepts mentioned?
So I'm not actively promoting my website, but I've got about 50 million blogs on that website, which will give you a lot of practical tools and ideas. So it's brandingandmarketingu.com. And I do know that there's a little ebook that we're going to be sending out after this webinar, which will also give you all some hands-on ideas of what you need to think about.
Thank you. And absolutely. And we'll close off with that as well. And Jerry, thank you very much. For your kind words there, loving every session. So, and interesting, and you know, we've just had a comment there come up from Marilyn saying that she's had the same issues as Thuli. So you're not alone. For everyone listening to this, you're not alone in the challenges that you have in being heard and being seen and branding yourself. So it's about pulling it all together and taking those steps forward and being the best you possible out there when you are Googled. So I would like to really thank you, Norma, thank you, Donna, for these incredible insights and great takeaways. As I say, I've even walked away with a number of takeaways, and thank you for that. For every participant, and for every Sirdar Director Network member, there is a free ebook on developing your personal leadership. So thank you very much, Donna, for sharing that. And we will make sure that everyone receives it. And Donna has kindly offered for those that are interested a complimentary chemistry session. So if you are interested, please do let us know. I have put the email address for Norma up on the chat box. So, and I think most of you who chat with us, chat with Norma, get our newsletters, etc., will have our contact details. But you are more than welcome to contact myself, Beverly Hancock, or Norma, and we will ensure that you get your complimentary session with Donna. So thank you to everyone that's joined us. Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Donna. And we look forward to seeing and speaking to you again.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye.